People don't suddenly go cold for no reason. Something changes internally before it ever shows externally. And most of the time, the signs appear long before the silence does. Number 1. Emotional exhaustion. Sometimes people go cold because they're mentally drained. They've spent too much time giving energy, attention, and effort without feeling understood in return. After a while, emotions stop feeling safe to express. So instead of arguing, explaining, or reacting, they shut down emotionally. And the strange part is, this change usually happens quietly. One day they're expressive and warm. Then slowly, they become distant. Short replies, less excitement, less emotional reaction. Not because they stopped feeling, but because feeling became exhausting. Number 2. They're protecting themselves. People become cold when they feel emotionally unsafe. If someone has been disappointed, ignored, manipulated, or hurt too many times, their brain starts building emotional walls. Cold behavior is often self-protection disguised as indifference. They stop opening up. They stop reacting the same way. They stop showing vulnerability because vulnerability once became pain. So instead of risking emotional damage again, they detach before anyone gets too close. Sometimes coldness isn't about hating people. It's about not trusting them anymore. Number 3. Resentment changes behavior. Not all anger is loud. Some people don't yell when they're hurt. They become silent, distant, emotionless. Resentment builds slowly. Small disappointments pile up over time until emotional connection starts fading. And eventually, the person who once cared deeply begins acting like they no longer care at all. That's why cold behavior can feel confusing, because the emotional shift happened long before the visible behavior changed. By the time you notice the distance, they may have already emotionally checked out. Number 4. They stop expecting understanding. People open up when they believe they'll be understood. But when someone constantly feels ignored, misunderstood, or emotionally dismissed, they slowly stop explaining themselves. At first, they try harder. They communicate more. They express frustration. But after repeated disappointment, silence starts feeling easier than explaining emotions nobody seems to hear. So they become quieter, colder, more emotionally unavailable. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they no longer believe saying it matters. Number 5. Coldness creates control. Sometimes emotional distance is intentional. When someone suddenly becomes cold, it changes the emotional balance. The other person starts overthinking, wondering what changed, trying harder to reconnect. And that emotional uncertainty creates power. This is why some people use cold behavior as manipulation. They withdraw attention to make others chase validation. They create distance to increase emotional dependency. The less emotion they show, the more emotional control they gain. And many people don't even realize it's happening. Number 6. They're hiding emotions, not lacking them. Cold people are often seen as emotionless, but many of them actually feel emotions very deeply. The difference is, they've learned not to show it. Some people were taught that expressing emotion is weakness. Others learned through painful experiences that showing feelings leads to rejection, embarrassment, or disappointment. So instead of expressing emotions outwardly, they suppress them internally. What looks cold on the outside may actually be emotional overload on the inside. Number 7. People change after certain experiences. Heartbreak changes people. Betrayal changes people. Rejection changes people. After enough emotional pain, many people stop interacting with the world the same way they used to. They become more guarded, more detached, more careful, not because they were born cold, but because experience reshaped how they trust others. And once someone gets used to emotional distance, warmth can start feeling unfamiliar. Now here's the truth. Not everyone who goes cold is toxic. Not everyone is manipulating others. Sometimes people are simply overwhelmed, emotionally tired, or protecting parts of themselves nobody else can see. But cold behavior always says something. Sometimes it says, I'm hurt. Sometimes it says, I don't trust anymore. And sometimes it says, I gave too much for too long. Understanding the psychology behind cold behavior doesn't just help you understand others better. It also helps you recognize emotional patterns before they silently destroy relationships. And once you recognize those patterns, you start seeing people differently.